Hi everyone. Thank you for taking a few moments out of your busy day to watch this video report on Annual Conference. As many of you know, the 2025 North Georgia Annual Conference met from June 12th through June 14th at the Classic Center in Athens, Georgia. Bishop Robin Dees, our bishop, presided over approximately 1,800 United Methodists gathering for the session, which this year had the theme, Come Follow Me, based on Matthew 4, verses 19 through 20. Together, those lay and clergy delegates worshiped God, shared meals, deliberated, sang, and prayed. We adopted a budget, celebrated retirements, remembered the saints who had gone on before us, and commissioned and ordained new clergy persons. A few highlights that I'd like to share with you from this year's annual conference. We received and affirmed the report from the One Georgia Task Force. That is a task force created to explore the possibility, the feasibility, and the upsides and the downsides of creating one annual conference from the North and South Georgia annual conferences. Currently, our two conferences share one bishop, Bishop Robin Dees, and some conference staff members. The One Georgia Task Force was created and really kind of exists and is working through 20 working groups to explore the possibility, the feasibility, the pros and the cons of uniting our two annual conferences into one Georgia annual conference. We expect to receive a final report next summer along with a recommendation. If the task force recommends uniting our two conferences, then both annual conferences will be asked to vote. If both conferences approve that motion, then we would become one Georgia annual conference in the summer of 2027. In addition to receiving and kind of responding to that initial report from the One Georgia Task Force, we also adopted a 2026 budget of $10,493,931. That is a 5% reduction from this year's 2025 budget and continues the trend of reducing the budget for the annual conference. In addition, we adopted two resolutions. One, the joint resolution on immigration strengthens our commitment to the rights of all immigrants, and also a resolution on full inclusion and justice for people with disabilities. That kind of parallels an amendment, a proposed constitutional amendment that I'll talk about shortly. In addition to those two resolutions, we also adopted the conference nominations report. This is something that's done annually just as local churches find lay people and already have pastors to serve on a variety of ministry teams and committees. So the annual conference does a lot of its work through boards, committees, and commissions. This year's report was a 24-page document including more than 750 names. Those volunteers now make up our conference boards, committees, and commissions. They will work together until next summer when a new slate of nominees is put forward and elected. In addition, during the ordination, commissioning, and licensing service on Thursday night, we licensed 7 new local pastors. For those of you unfamiliar with local pastor language, those are lay people who are licensed to serve local churches as pastors, to carry out all pastoral functions in that local church. They have special training that goes along with that employment. Anyway, we licensed 7 new local pastors, commissioned 5 provisional members. Those are people at the beginning of their journey toward full membership as clergy members. We ordained 1 full commissioned, 1 connection deacon, and then ordained 6 full connection elders. Those are pastors kind of fully ordained and serving local churches. In addition to those celebrations, we voted on 4 proposed constitutional amendments which were passed by the General Conference in 2024. And because they were passed overwhelmingly by the General Conference in 2024, they have been sent to the annual conferences, which will be voting over the course of this year. 2/3 of all United Methodists in the world have to approve those amendments for them to be added to our Book of Discipline. Very briefly, the first amendment concerned worldwide regionalization. That means that it would, if adopted, create a region in the United States, covering all United Methodist churches in the United States. It would be similar to the central conferences that exist outside the United States, in Africa, in Europe, and in the Philippines. Those special conferences outside the United States have the right under the Book of Discipline to adapt the discipline for ministry in their areas if This plan for regionalization would go forward. Those central conferences, which is what we refer to those conferences outside the United States, those central conferences would become regional conferences. We would create a new United States specific regional conference, and then we would have the same rights that everyone else does outside the U.S. to adapt the Book of Discipline for ministry in our context. In addition, we voted on a constitutional amendment concerning inclusiveness in the church. It really makes explicit our conviction that no one should be denied membership or participation in the United Methodist Church on account of gender or ability. No physical or other type of disability or differently abled person can be denied membership because of that different ability. There was also an amendment concerning racial justice, which strengthens our commitment to racial justice and our opposition to racism. And then finally, there was a fairly technical amendment concerning local pastor voting eligibility. Remember, I talked about local pastors being lay people who get to serve local churches as pastors. They get to vote. They do vote. They have the authority to vote on clergy delegates to general conference when that rolls around every 4 years, as well as jurisdictional conference. In any event, that's a lot for you to absorb. This amendment just clarifies the educational requirements for local pastors to be voting members. Finally, a couple more things to share from this annual conference. It's a lot to absorb. We also heard from our United Methodist College and University presidents from across the state of Georgia. Those were great reports for us to receive and to celebrate. And then finally, we celebrated 100 years of camping ministry at Glisson, receiving over $25,000 by the end of the conference for the Campership Fund, which helps children go to camp. It makes camp more affordable for them. As you can tell, annual conference is a busy time together. It's a joyful time together. It's a challenging time together. We get to celebrate ministries. We do spend some time grieving loss. Clergy and clergy spouses who have passed away in the previous year are memorialized, are celebrated. We get to celebrate ordinations and commissioning and licensing. And we also just get to break bread together, worship together, reconnect with friends, make new friends. It's a wonderful experience, and I want you to consider serving as a lay delegate next year. The district, our district, is always looking for at-large lay delegates. We put the invitation out every year, and so anyone with a vested interest in the future of United Methodist Church is welcome to consider applying for that, pursuing that next year. One final thing. One of the numbers that got mentioned a couple times at conference is that 85% of Georgia residents, 85% of the people who live in the state of Georgia do not have a local church, don't have a church home, have no meaningful connection with the community of faith. That's a huge number. We may find that distressing and challenging, maybe a little overwhelming or surprising. The reality is that's an invitation. That's an opportunity for us to partner with each other, with the risen Lord, in the strength and wisdom of His Spirit to be about the work of the church, which is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the good of the world and the glory of God. Thanks for spending some time taking in a lot of information about annual conference. I hope you'll hang in there, listen to some of our lay delegates share their experience with this year's annual conference.
Hi, my name is Beth Blakeley.
And I'm Rick Adams.
And we're here to tell you about our experience at the North Georgia Annual Conference 2025.
And also would recommend that at any time you could go, that you would go. It's a very uplifting experience. You really see what the United Methodist Church does locally and throughout the world. When you put your offering in the plate, it does more than just take care of us, can it? It reaches out throughout the world. And it's a time for you to see that as all the reports are made and tells us what's been achieved and what's happening and all.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I've been a Methodist for 14 years, and I've been a knowledgeable Methodist for 2 years because I went to annual conference now for 2 years. And I understand way more about the conference, why we have a conference, why the setup is the way it is, and all the different ministries that are affected by the money that we give and the prayers that we give and the time that we give to our annual conference.
One of the things that you get at the annual conference, besides all these reports, you have worship services with some of the most outstanding pastors in our conference that bring the word. And for me, one of the most things that I enjoy most is ordination.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be a lot more people being ordained, but I think there were about 7 or 8 full ordained, licensed, and different ones like that. But to participate, and if you know in the Methodist Church, to be ordained, it's the end of a long, arduous working world for these people. They have been through so much and given so much, and then they still have to get voted on and all that. Will we still accept you as an ordained pastor in this congregation? So it's just a great time to be there, and their families there, and you get to see little kids and husbands and wives and parents and all that taking joy in it as well.
Yeah, that is. It's really cool to watch those families see that culmination of all the work that they've put in for all those years. It's really an exciting thing. I really enjoyed the opening worship with Bishop Deese bringing the word. If you've never gotten a chance to find a sermon of hers, find one. Go on YouTube, look her up. She knows how to bring the word. She knows how to really convict you and yet make you feel pretty loved and wanted and part of the group. I'm so glad she's our bishop. And we discussed that she's an amazing t-shirt changer. Saturday morning is t-shirt day, and while everyone's wearing their respective t-shirts, she wears everyone's t-shirts. She comes in with, I think, about 8 or 9 t-shirts on and just keeps taking one off and taking one off. Fortunately, she knows when to stop, because that would be a whole other kind of thing. But
I never saw her change.
No, that's it. You don't.
Every time she got up, there was a new t-shirt on. Why didn't she do that?
Yep.
Did she go in with like 9 of them on her to start with?
Yes, that's what she does. Yes, because I talked to her at the beginning, and she had just the thick, very thick t-shirts on. God bless her. I can't imagine how hot she was.
I think this was like my 10th conference to go to, and there used to be this aura of the bishop.
Yeah.
The bishop sat there, and everything was an honor and all that. And Bishop Deese is just us.
She is, and that's really one of the things that I love about her is just how completely human and just it's approachable, and just I just love that she's our bishop.
I mean, I love Bishop Watson, and perhaps that's what we needed at that time, and she's what we need now at this time.
That's the beauty of Methodism, that you get what you need when you need it, and that's why we do switch out things, and that's why pastors do come and go, because at different times in your life and the church's life, you need different people. So that's one of the reasons I like being a Methodist. So one of the things that was a big topic this year was the North and South Georgia and the potential for this. Right now this is where I have to use my Methodism. Right now we're one Episcopacy, the North and South conferences. So we share Bishop Deese between the two of them, but we are 2 distinct conferences at the moment. They're exploring, and they've got a bunch of different groups that are exploring possibly combining us into one giant district. There's Georgia being one. They're calling it One Georgia. And like everything, there were definitely people there was a lot of discussion. There was people who are definitely for it. There's obviously reasons why it would be good, and there's people who are against it, and there are some reasons why it would make things possibly more difficult. So that's something that they're still working on. There wasn't a vote. The only thing we voted on this year was to prove that they continue to look into the One Georgia concept, and I don't think we would vote on that until possibly next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if your feeling was my feeling. My feeling was it's fait accompli.
It does seem like it's pretty much a done deal, but at the same time, I mean, I think it's what I appreciate about conferences. Sorry, I just whacked the microphone. What I appreciate about conferences is that there is a chance for people to say why they're good with it or why they're not, and it's a chance to really listen and understand. I always like to know all the sides of an argument. Even if I don't necessarily agree with all the sides, I at least want to know them, and that's one of the things I enjoy about conferences on all these different topics. You've got the people, they always talk about when we're going to discuss, they want 3 discussions for, 3 against, and I appreciate that. I like to know where people are coming from, because certainly my experience is only my experience, and other people, coming from different places and different experiences, I like getting to know what they're thinking.
Well, when I first started 10 years ago, the big conflict was Simpsonwood, and then other things. But you'd have a healthy conversation on both sides. Yes. And then became disaffiliation. Oof. And it became nasty.
Yeah.
what a joy this year was.
Yeah.
And I point out that one of the issues, one of the amendments was up, and Bishop Dees going, well, I got 3-4. Do I have any against? And she couldn't get anybody to speak against it,
Yeah.
So, wow. It's nice.
Yes.
We're all on the same team again.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I kind of chuckled because, as I said, this was only my second conference, so I wasn't there for the disaffiliation ones, but I know that they were contentious. And I just chuckled that this year one of the big discussions was the size of dogs in
parsonages.
Yes, if you could have a big dog or just a small dog.
Yeah,
and I thought, wow.
And cats are more destructive than dogs.
Actually,
yeah.
yes. So I did appreciate that we've gone to just the pendulum has swung way far to just basically being able to all be in a room together and really have one common vision and one common place that we're headed. So.
Now, each church basically gets one lay member if you only have one pastor.
Yep.
Well, we had a number of people there.
Yeah.
Because the district offers at-large. So, Beth, you were our rep.
Yep.
I was an at-large for the district.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other highlights was having dinner with Pastor Tim and Pastor Skip.
Yes, that was a fun little canon only.
Yeah, so
dinner.
It was a nice experience.
It was good to get to know people better.
And our other people that come and all that. I got to sit with Jan for a while. Every year they have a lay luncheon and all. And the big highlight this year was Glisten.
Yes.
Camp Glisten. And were you? Did you have background with Camp Glisten?
My kids have gone.
Okay, so when they had people in the conference stand up according to, have you gone as a camper, have you done this? I mean, by the time they were done, 80-90% of everybody was standing up that they had some connection with Camp Glisten, 100 years old. Yeah,
that was really. And then the last sermon was brought by the director of Glisten, and again another amazing message and really the scope that they managed to reach at Glisten between kids and then the discussion about how do you compete for kids' attention in these days, and just that there isn't a lot of technology, and it's just a chance for kids to just really be part of nature and part of each other, and it's such a great ministry, and it was great to hear a lot about it.
And speaking about kids, now for the 10 years I've been going, there's always been a section in the front of youth representatives from churches and all, but they have become more vocal.
Yes, they have.
They used to give a prayer or something like that during the week, but I think almost every issue that had a conversation, there was one or two kids that got up and spoke one way or the other, or asked questions, informative questions and all. And the whole conference ended with a youth saying the prayer over us.
Yes, yeah.
So
I loved how involved the youth are, and I mean, when you think about the future of the church and the future of the Methodist Church and potentially One Georgia or not or whatever, knowing that these kids are there and really listening and taking part in it makes me feel like we have we've got a path forward.
Yeah.